Yes, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rashard Allen from the Arts Council of Indianapolis, here in Indianapolis. And I'm joined by Ailey McGill from Nickel Plate Arts in Noblesville. And we are the co-chairs of the 4th Annual Indiana Arts Homecoming. It has been quite a journey, and when we were tasked with planning this about a year ago, it certainly looked different, but we are glad to be here, whether virtual, in person, and still celebrating the wonderful things that are happening in the arts in Indiana. We'd like to start this year's homecoming conference with a land and ancestral acknowledgement, a formal statement that recognizes that every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Please take a moment with us to consider that many legacies that bring us together here today. We respectfully acknowledge that this conference is being held virtually all over the state of Indiana on the traditional lands of the Potawatomi, Shawnee, Kickapoo, Delaware, Wia, Wyandot, Odawa, and Miami nations. We pay our respect to elders past, present, and future, and extend that respect to other Indigenous people who are present. In addition, we acknowledge the ancestors and descendants of enslaved Africans who were brought to these lands hundreds of years ago. Many survived the Middle Passage and the numerous undocumented cruelties that are ingrained in history of the United States of America. It is on their backs that this country was built, and on their shoulders we now stand. And with that, I would like to pass it over to my co-chair, Ailey.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to have you and to be able to kick off this sort of one-of-a-kind conference. When we first started planning this session about a year ago, we had a very different concept of what today would potentially be like. In March, the IAC came to Rashard and I to ask us to start thinking about what this conference could be like in an online format. It is so important to us that we give everyone participating this week a chance to connect with each other and to connect with other people in the field and to hopefully get a little bit of a recharge during what has been a very unusual year. We want to acknowledge that this conference would not be what it is without our amazing steering committee. And so on your screen right now, you're seeing the names of everyone who participated to help us make this great event what it is this year. And so with that, I would like to welcome to the virtual stage, Ricci, the Executive Director and Fearless Leader of the Indiana Arts Commission.
Thanks, Ailey, and thanks, Rashard, for your terrific leadership. As you've said, this has been a very challenging time, requiring a lot of flexibility and vision, and you guys have provided both of those things for us, and we're so grateful to have your leadership in the state. I want to welcome everyone on behalf of the Indiana Arts Commission, our commissioners and staff, and of course our Governor, Eric, and First Lady, Janet Holcomb, to the 2020 Indiana Arts Homecoming. We're now in our 4th year. This convening is designed to bring together our extended arts community as we realize the arts for everywhere, every day for everywhere for everyone in Indiana. We are thrilled you have chosen to take some time out of the next 2 days to share in this gathering of your peers and colleagues. I want to take a moment for you to meet one another. I think we've got a slide that shows where you all are from, everywhere in the state. Indeed, 86 Indiana cities and towns, 62 counties, as well as 4 different states and Washington, D.C. as well. Even in the virtual setting, the spirit of this gathering is to be a time when the rich cultural, social, ethnic, and geographic diversity of our state comes together to share victories, best practices, challenges, and aspirations in the development of our state's cultural landscape. I want to also thank those whose leadership and generosity have made the Indiana Arts Homecoming possible. First, to our board of volunteer commissioners from all over the state, who are the trustees for the commission and our public support of the arts. Thank you all so very much. to the exceptional planning committee of your peers from around Indiana, expertly guided by Richard and Ailey. To all those who submitted session ideas and the more than 40 speakers who have come to share with you in the next couple of days. And then, of course, to my wonderful staff of the IAC for all their hard work, and for our event wrangler extraordinaire, Sara Peterson. Seriously, Sara, we could not have pulled this one off without you. And of course, our partners, the National Endowment for the Arts, Arts Midwest, and Americans for the Arts. Earlier, Ailey mentioned how different this year looks compared to what we expected when we started in 2020. I want to take a moment to thank all of you for continuing to support your communities. It has been a hard year for our sector, but artists, arts organizations, and arts educators have continued to show up for our citizens and for our communities. An example, textile artist Emily Gartner in Indianapolis has sewn thousands of hospital gowns and face masks to serve our citizens. The Muncie Children's Museum delivered take-home art kits to the local boys and girls clubs and food pantries. We've been told that the kids were so excited that there was something for them, and many grandparents were thrilled to have something to share with their grandkids during fall break. Some of you may have seen the press release go out this morning that I will retire in the fall of 2021. It is my great hope that we will get together in person at next year's conference, and I'll be able to thank you for all you've done for Indiana in this time that's so challenging. More information will be shared with the field in the upcoming months about the search process for a new executive director for the commission. All right, I'm ready to kick off this conference. How about all of you? Imagining your virtual nods and approval, I'd like to welcome to the virtual stage Alan Platt, Indiana Arts Commission Chair from Floyd Knobs, Indiana. Alan.
Thanks, Lewis. Well, congratulations on your announcement of your retirement, but don't get comfortable, because on behalf of the other commissioners, I certainly am thrilled to say that we're going to be working with you for this next year, and we look forward to 2021 being together so we can all celebrate in person with you, and certainly congratulate you. Today, we are delighted to have the Americans for the Arts, Randy Cohen, and advocate Dr. Terry Whitt Bailey open this year's homecoming. I'll tell you a little bit about our keynote speakers today. Randy Cohen is the Vice President of Research at Americans for the Arts, the national advocacy organization for the arts, where he has been empowering arts advocates since 1991. Randy stands out as a noted expert in the field of art funding, research, and using the arts to address community development issues. He publishes Americans Speak Out About the Arts, the nation's largest public opinion study about the arts, and produces two premier economic studies of the arts, Arts and Economic Prosperity, the National Economic Impact Study of nonprofit arts organizations and their audiences, and the other, Creative Industries, a mapping study of the nation's 675,000 arts businesses and their employees. His 10 Reasons to Support the Arts blog received the Gold Award from the Association of Media and Publishing. Randy has given speeches in every state and regularly appears in the news media, including Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, C-SPAN, NPR. Randy has been a policy specialist for the National Endowment for the Arts and founded the San Diego Theater for Young Audiences. He has served on the League of Historic American Theaters and chaired the Tacoma Park Arts and Humanities Commission. Dr. Terry Whitt Bailey is an admired high-energy executive with 3 decades of experience in arts administration, nonprofit management, higher education, and community and economic development. Terry currently serves as manager of programs at the Center for Leadership Development in Central Indiana. Terry spent the previous 8 years as director of community development for the city of Muncie. Prior to that appointment, Terry had a successful career as an arts administrator, serving as president and CEO of the historic Madam Walker Theater Center in Indianapolis and Cornerstone Center for the Arts in Muncie. Terry previously held positions with Ball State University, most notably as Chief of Staff for the Office of the President. She also has been an assistant professor at Ball State and at Chicago State University, where she taught dance, fitness, was a choreographer for dance companies at those universities. Terry earned her BA in dance education from Rutgers University, her MA in dance education with an emphasis in dance history from UCLA, and her doctorate in ministry studies from Newburgh Theological Seminary. Terry was the recipient of the Indiana Arts Education Award and currently one of the coordinators of the Indiana Legislative Arts Advocacy Council. We are thrilled to have Randy and Terry, and we'll turn it over to you. The virtual spotlight is yours.
Oh, we get a virtual spotlight. Wow. Welcome to all of you, and thank you to Ailey and Richard for your hard work. I got a chance to be a co-chair one time, and I know it's a lot of fun work meeting a lot of great people from around the state of Indiana. So thank you for the work that you have done. Now today, our pleasure is going to be to hear from a person that I call an outspoken, outstanding arts policy leader. You have to know, people from the state of Indiana, that we got the best. And he's going to share with us today some things that I think will help us, especially in 2020. We learned a little bit about Randy Cohen from his bio, but we could talk all day, the rest of the week, about all that he has done for us in the field of the arts. But we're going to let him do some talking. And Randy, can you just tell us a little bit about Americans for the Arts, just for the people of the state of Indiana?
Sure. Thanks, Terry. And it's so good to be with you all. Thanks so much. Before we go any further, just want to say congratulations to Lewis, one of the great state arts agencies directors. And it's going to be a big change for the field. And I hope you all know you really do have the best, and his influence is felt across the country. Other state arts agencies looking to see what's happening in Indiana, and the evidence just comes again and again and again, whether it's, new funding or innovative programming. Anyway, so just congratulations, and I've also just enjoyed your friendship over these years. Americans for the Arts. So we've been around since 1960, 60 years, and we work very broadly to make sure everybody in the country has the opportunity to engage and connect with the arts. Sometimes we just say all the arts for all the people. It's not a particular discipline, performing arts or visual arts. But we do that by trying to make sure every child receives a quality arts education, that there's more funding for the arts, government funding, private sector, business funding for the arts, because it's the money, right? We gotta, that's one of the things that helps us, those contributed dollars, keep our cultural product accessible to the community. Second thing is we talk about, I know we'll talk about a lot today, advancing the value proposition of the arts, right? We all love the arts. They're fundamental to our humanity and to a healthy community. They're food for the soul, and they really are, just going back tens of thousands of years, central to a healthy society. But they also improve our communities socially, educationally, economically. They unify our communities. They promote well-being. They improve the quality of our healthcare and healing experiences. There's so much evidence now, and we'll hit these points, about how the arts touch our community, that alone is evidence that the arts are central to a healthy community. So money, the value proposition, and then leadership. When they bring me up to Capitol Hill, and to trudge the marble halls of Congress, they see me coming a mile away, right? Guys kind of cover up their wallets, ladies lock their purse in a drawer or something like that. But, when we can bring, an arts leader, a business leader, bring in young people or people, across our communities who've been touched by the arts, that changes the conversation as well. And so, who are those 1,000 people that have influence and visibility and leadership? And so that's what we do. And we work with, the 4,500 local arts agencies. We work with all the state arts agencies. And we've been very busy, and we'll get into this as well, tracking the impact of this COVID virus on the arts.
Ooh, you touched on something that maybe we should just go to right now. How have you seen the effects of COVID on the arts? You're seeing it from a larger, excuse me, perspective, but I think it would help us in the state of Indiana to understand what you're seeing across the nation.
Well, if you're feeling pain, devastation, and just a giant question mark looking ahead, congratulations. You're feeling what everybody is feeling right now. The pandemic has just been devastating for the arts. Effectively every arts organization in this country has had to cancel performances. Artists, creative workers are among the most severely affected segment of the workforce. And I know many of you have actually participated in our surveys of organizations and artists, but just some highlights. Arts organizations have experienced about $14 billion in losses at this point. Lost 476 million admissions. We see 10% of organizations doubt that they can even make it to the other side of the pandemic. That's 12,000 organizations. You might say, oh, well, 10%, but that's a lot of organizations that see themselves at risk. Opening, reopening, not open yet. 41% of organizations are now open. 10% actually never closed. And so then you see a third overall, have opened a little bit, but, even that's been very delicate. So museums are, okay, we're going to have timed admissions and let people in and, provide spacing. And I was just talking to the folks at the Smithsonian earlier this week. They're doing that. Smithsonian's open. 50% no-show rate. Everyone's like, it's like, Terry, let's go into the city and see a museum next week. I got tickets for Thursday, and Thursday comes around and folks are like, I don't think I'm not going out there. So that's, and so that then means that 59% of organizations are still closed, with the majority of those with just no target date. And, just the challenge has been, if this was just a recession, we'd ask, is it a bad recession or a horrible recession? But we have a playbook for a recession. We know it's going to hurt. We know it's going to be painful, but we have this giant question mark about when's the vaccine going to come, and when's enough people going to take it that we can really start to reopen things. And for the artists, it's just, but if organizations are the first to close and last to open, we see the artist equivalent of that. 63% of artists and creative workers fully unemployed at this point. They tell us, this is based on 26,000 surveys.
Oh, wow.
Sample. The average artist expects to lose $22,000 in creative income this year. 95% report loss of income. 78% don't have a post-pandemic plan. And then BIPOC artists and creative workers, we're seeing higher rates of unemployment and actually losing a higher percentage of their income than their white counterparts. And so that's one of the other issues I know that we're all thinking about and talking about, in equity and racial justice. And that shows up in the data as well. So, yeah.
Well, it's really important that those of us in the state of Indiana know and understand and can receive that data. Can we find that data on the Americans for the Arts website?
Yes, absolutely. So we have several big national surveys going on. And I've got a one-pager, and I update it every week. And I'll drop that into the chat here a little later when I'm able to do two things at once. But and actually there's, so it highlights those, the organizational survey, the artist survey. And again, I encourage everyone to take it again, update it. We're also looking though at some of the promising and positive aspects of this. You know,
Yes, yes.
we don't want to just find everything that's wrong. We do want to find what's right. And so we're involved in an international study looking at COVID-19, social distancing, mental health, and the arts. And one of the amazing things, and I know so many of us are actually, I just want to say, I really appreciate everybody being part of this and the meeting and coming together, because I just know everybody is just under a kind of stress. We're under a stress that we've never experienced before, and I just really want to acknowledge that. And
very good.
And just coming back day after day in itself is just an amazing miracle and contribution to your communities. So thank you for that. The research shows that there's actually an RDA for good mental health. You know, if you do 30 minutes a day of some kind of arts or creative activity or cultural engagement, we're seeing, you know, less depression, less anxiety. We're seeing people in a better mental health situation. And I'll say personally, me and some neighbors on my block, we have a 6 o'clock neighborhood sing-along, Monday through Friday, every single day. We are in our 30th week. The group has never missed. We socially distance, but we pick some songs to sing. And sometimes it's a song relevant to what's going on, or maybe a famous artist has passed or something like that. But, and I got to tell you, it just makes a difference. It engages it. I can breathe with that and knowing that's on the horizon. So let's make sure we're also caring for ourselves, taking our own medicine, you know, making sure that we're including arts and culture as part of our own life, as well as how do we make our communities healthier.
Yes, you know, I'm stuck on the Hamilton, the Hamilton soundtrack, and I haven't been able to memorize one whole song yet. There's so many words in it. Still working on it. But I too saw something just yesterday in Indianapolis. I was going around a corner, and there were some young children, probably elementary age, in a large circle. All of them were playing the violin. And they had a teacher that was a part of that circle. And I just wanted to stop and just listen to them. There was just something about what they were doing and how they have found a way to still provide the arts to these young people to know the importance of it, because we do need it. The other part of that, and you mentioned this before when we talked, was about the title of our conference, Homecoming. And something about just coming home and being able to be with each other. Yes, we would love to be face to face where we can hug each other and feel that energy. But right now it's virtual energy, and we appreciate what you're able to share with us. So this is our version of homecoming. And so we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the national surveys that you've been able to do for the arts and how it has impacted, say, the Midwest or the state of Indiana?
Yeah, you know, there's a question that we get a lot is, you know, how do you make the case for the arts in this environment?
Yes.
And, you know, and what are, you know, we're looking at all these community priorities of health and education, and how do we jumpstart the economy? And, you know, the good news is the work we do affects all these vital areas of a community. And there's research that gets behind that as well. There's data, there's stories. You know, I have a golden rule at Americans for the Arts. No numbers without a story, no stories without a number. And, you know, in the arts, we're full of stories. We've got so many stories of, you know, the work we do, or the impact, or people who have participated. It could be, you know, it's those kids in the circle. It could be, you know, people who attend the arts, or someone who's had an arts experience, you know, in the hospital, and on and on. And there's research that underscores all of that. And so, you know, I guess if, you know, if I were an extraterrestrial coming from outer space to advocate for the arts in Indiana, you know, it's like, I'm here to make the case for the arts, take me to your leader. Oh yeah, give me one talking point. I'd make it an economic talking point. Because if you talk to most elected leaders and ask them what their 3 priorities are, they'll tell you jobs, jobs, and jobs, right? So If that's their priority, then let's connect what's important to them to our cultural product. And there's some great research that shows that. I'll just start in the big picture. The U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, the biggest economics shop on the planet, does something now. It's a study called the Arts and Cultural Production Satellite Account. And what they've done is they've looked at all the arts in the United States, nonprofit, commercial, the university, dance department, individual artists, avocation, import, export. They just sort of took the whole economy, dumped it on a table, and pulled out every little arts dollar that they could find. Nationally, they ping the arts as an $878 billion industry. That is billion with a B, 4.5% of the nation's economy. That's a bigger share of GDP than agriculture, tourism, transportation, and those are just rock solid data from the top economic shop on the planet. Now, what's great is they actually drill down and provide these data by the state as well. And so I can tell you in Indiana, arts and culture, $8.4 billion industry. And that represents 2.4% of the state's economy and supports over 87,000 jobs. So if you talk to a legislator, local, statewide, and they're like, well, we love the arts, who doesn't? But we really got to focus on jobs. You know what? The arts are an industry that is bigger than anybody expects. And the federal government is tracking this. So, I mean, you can take those, literally just take those data to the bank. $8.4 billion industry, 2.4% of gross state economy, and it's actually 87,494 jobs across the state. So,
and Randy, where can we get this information again so that people around the state can use it?
This is work done with the National Endowment for the Arts, and so a couple places, and I'm just going to make a list so we can provide links for all this stuff. But the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies, which is the group of all the state arts agencies, Lewis and the other 49 states and 6 territories, their organization has a fabulous dashboard where it's got all the states and everything like that, and all the state data. So you go to, I'll give it to you, nasaa-arts.org, and then you scroll down, and on the left side you're going to see creative economy data. And then you just click there, and up pops a map, and you click on Indiana, and you're just going to see all kinds of data and the sub-industries and everything else. That's a lot of detail, and it's got a hyphen in the address, which always throws, nobody ever remembers, but I'll make sure we've got that as well. So arts are big business, and so, yeah, the financial losses, for the arts are bigger, but let's look at, another study as well. So every 5 years, we do Arts and Economic Prosperity, which is the economic impact study of nonprofit arts organizations and their audiences. Big national study, all 50 states, done it, Indianapolis, and we've done a number of communities in Indiana year after year, and great research partners. So yes, it shows arts organizations. I'll just tell you, nationally, nonprofit arts industry, $166 billion industry, $63 billion in spending by organizations, and $103 billion in spending by arts audiences. Now, I want to drill into that arts audience piece a little bit, because that's really the value-added aspect of what we do. Think of the last time we went to an arts event. Oh my God, it was so fun.
Wow.
I sure wish, we could again. But, did you slip out of your house, go see the show or the exhibit, and, run home and do nothing else? Not usually,
Probably
right?
not.
It's dinner and a show. It's, pay for parking and have dinner and dessert or drinks after the show. And if you got little ones at home, you double the cost of the evening on babysitting, right? The typical attendee to an arts event spends $31.47 per person per event, not including the cost of admission. $31.47 every time somebody goes to an arts event. And That's putting money in the pockets of local merchants, of local businesses. So what are the big issues? What are our communities, and community leaders worried about right now when we get to the other side of this pandemic? How do we jumpstart the economy? And that's the arts. Arts are kindling for the economy. So, but let me give you some other interesting data as well. $31.47 per person per event, not including the cost of admission. And this is based on 212,000 audience surveys. Wow. So a ridiculous sample. But we also asked those people for their zip code because we wanted to find out, do you live in the county in which the arts event took place, which would make you local, or are you from outside the county, non-local? 34% of attendees came from outside the county. So basically a third. So next time, when we're able to go to an arts event, you got someone on your left and someone on your right, one of the three of you are from out of town, and they average $48 per person per event, not including the cost of admission. Now, Terry, we asked people yet another question because we're just that annoying. And that was to the non-local people, why are you here? We're glad you're here. Thank you for coming. Are you here on business? Are you here visiting friends and family? 69% said we came specifically for this arts event. And then we asked their local counterparts, what would you do if this arts event wasn't taking place? Stay home, watch Netflix. We gave a bunch of options. 41%, nearly half said, oh, we traveled to a different community to attend a similar kind of arts event. So what this shows is that when we invest in the arts in our community, we're not investing in a frill or an extra, we're investing in an industry. And it supports 4.6 million jobs nationally, generates $27.5 billion in government revenue. It's driving tourism, and it's providing cultural and economic benefits. So that's a really important story to be able to tell. And one of the other links I'm going to send you to is our Arts and Economic Prosperity Calculator, because you can go on our website online, americansforthearts.org/AEP5, and I'll send you the link, and you can make an estimate of the economic impact of nonprofit arts and culture on your own community. You put it, it's real easy. You pick one of 7 population categories. We live between a community of 50 to 100,000 people. And here's an expenditure figure. It could be of my organization. It could be of our organizations. An attendance figure, hit calculate, and these boxes will all populate with the data. You need to go and tell your story about your impact on the economy. So that's
so important. So important for us. And thank you for sharing the big picture and how we do that and how we use the calculations. I would believe that there are some people that are a part of this Zoom and also on Facebook Live who they never really thought that they had to go beyond just being an artist. I just want to sing, or I just want to paint. I just want to be on stage, but they've got to go further and do the advocacy part. So how can you help us to understand as individuals from our communities to be a good advocate for ourselves or for our organizations within our community? We can get these numbers, but how do we talk about it? How do we get to our legislator? How do we do that?
That's a great question. And I'll tell you, everyone's got the power to do this. I'm just going to start with this right out. One person can start a movement in this country. We see it. It happens all the time. And it doesn't even have to be a movement. We just need to make our voice heard and let people know that we're out there. So there's whole libraries on how to be a good advocate or how to be a lobby and all that kind of stuff. But let's just forget all that. And I'm going to break it down into three questions. First question is, what's the message? Second question is, who gets the message? And third question is, who delivers the message? So let me just, if I may, just sort of run through those 3 questions real quick. So what's the message? Well, that's that arts are an industry. The arts mean jobs. That's the message that young people who are engaged in the arts are performing better academically, better test scores, lower dropout rates. That's the message that when the arts are part of our healing and healthcare system, we have shorter hospital stays, less medication, less depression, fewer doctor visits. That's the message that a vibrant arts community is a community that we just not only want to live in, but one that we want to work in. And if that's where the workers are, that's where the businesses go. So there's a whole economic development story there. That 10 reasons to support the arts that was mentioned in the introduction, it's all on one page. I'm going to send that link as well. So
yes, please.
yeah, so there's, and we can dig into all of these messages, but what's the message? And that fuels the second question, who gets the message? We've all got authorizers in our environment. There's somebody in state government, there's a committee, or maybe it's, the mayor, or it's the head of a community foundation. There's all these authorizers in our environment who are decision makers and who make decisions about resources or policies. And so whose brain do we got to bend? So this is where we do our research, right? Who is that person? And I mean, this is what you all do so well, and you have done so well your whole career as an advocate. You find those people, you've identified those people, but then what I always love is we've talked about, it's like, what makes her or him tick? I mean, I talked about, if you had to pick one message, pick an economic message, but some people are like, no, I'm the education candidate, or I'm the downtown revitalization candidate. That's good. I got something for you. So we need a quiver full of case-making arrows, right? And so we identify that candidate, pull out our first arrow, and we hit them with that. So that's the second question. The third question is, who delivers the message? We talked a little bit about that earlier. Most people on this call are going to be in the usual suspects category. But if we have an organization, we have a board of directors, which is made up of a whole broad section of the community, or we have neighbors, or we have people who have attended. Every 4 years at the political conventions, except this crazy summer, we make sure there's an arts presence, and so we're with the DNC and we're with the RNC. And I also make this point, the arts are a nonpartisan issue. Don't think, oh, they're this party, ergo. That's not how that works. I mean, a lot of people are surprised that arguably the #1 arts education advocate at the national level is Mike Huckabee, because he credits arts education with helping him turn Arkansas's education system around when he was governor. 3 years ago, I'm sort of, this is who's delivering the message. About 3.5 years ago, when the Trump administration zeroed out all the arts, NEH, NEA, and he zeroed out all the funding, Mike Huckabee was the one who wrote a fabulous op-ed in the Washington Post about the importance of federal government funding of the arts and the NEA and arts education. So, and he will often has in the past shared those RNC panels for us. But the story I was going to tell, which is just another example, there was the mayor of Mesa, Arizona was with us. And he was up there and he was telling this story about, it was budget hearing, night for the arts, and said, there was me, the mayor, and the city council, and 60 people had signed up online to do their 3 minutes, and everybody was talking about the importance of the arts, but he said, I noticed that the chief of police was there, which wasn't that unusual for a city council meeting, but he was in full chief of police regalia, hat, tie, medals, which was different. And after everybody else had done their 3 minutes, the chief of police asked for 3 minutes and went up and basically said, if you got to take a cut out of the arts budget, I'd rather you just took that out of my public safety budget. Because when they do their job well, it makes my job easier. I mean, can you imagine if we had 1,000 police chiefs on that message, right?
Oh.
I would say all those 60 people were vitally important in making sure the arts got funded that night. But Chief of police was definitely the closer. So we've got all these partnerships in the community, you know. There's so much attention now paid to our returning service members and veterans, and who are coming back with such high incidences of, you know, PTSD issues and TBI, traumatic brain injuries, because they've gone for so many tours of duty. And we work with the NEA and Department of Defense and the VA on the Creative Forces Initiative. And what it's showing is that the arts are helping these service members heal physically, emotionally, helping with their families, even helps with the caretakers. And so now, you know, there's veterans, you know, that were part of these programs that will speak out about the importance of the arts. But we got to remember to ask them. And we've all got to remember that, you know, we're here, you know, to build healthier communities through the arts. But the great thing is when we connect to people, you know, they become champions for the arts too.
Yes. You, in some of your research that you've done, and you've talked about how we can reach certain populations, you've done some studies on at-risk youth. And I know there are several attendees who work with young people. Can you tell us a little bit about that work and how they can get access to some of the studies that you've done?
Sure. So way back in the 90s.
Way back.
I know. So I've been in Americans for the Arts since like 1991. I was a very small child when I started. But several of the big reports and studies, you know, are like the Coming Up Taller report, which we did back in the mid-90s. Did that with the President's Committee on the Arts and the Humanities, which really brought, you know, a codified greater awareness that of the benefits that and the prevalence of these arts programs for at-risk youth. And there was a lot of, you know, we had about 225 case studies in there and everything. So if you just Google Coming Up Taller, you're going to find out all the surveys we did and see all the write-ups. And it provided wonderful qualitative evidence of the benefits of these programs on an at-risk youth, he says with sort of air quotes. I consider any kid with a school locker these days an at-risk youth. So this isn't just some inner city phenomenon or something like that.
Yes.
Now, you know, but I also always say qualitative data gets you in the door. Quantitative data keeps you at the table.
Very important.
So, you know, that provided a lot of momentum and new funding and new policies, and mayors said, yeah, this is really important. We want, you know, we had Mayor Daley from Chicago keynoting to 800 fellow mayors at the U.S. Conference of Mayors about, you know, his Gallery 37 program and all of that. So then we set out to do a larger study with the Department of Justice and their Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, OJJDP. Raised $1 million, and we worked with the NEA and DOJ's evaluation firms, and we looked at some programs across the country and did really rigorous evaluations. It's called the Youth Arts Project. And again, you can find it on our website. It's just, you know, Youth Arts Project, Youth at Risk. Just do that, it'll pop up. And so what you'll find in there is the research findings. And the findings were very, very powerful, and maybe not a surprise to this audience, but young people engaged in these programs, and compared to similar kids, young people who were not engaged in the arts, and this is whether they had already been adjudicated, whether they were first-time offenders, whether it was gang diversion or dropout prevention programs. We looked at a diversity of programs. You know, decrease in criminal involvement, decrease, you know, recidivism, increased communication skills with peers and adults, you know, increased connection and engagement with school, basically more pro-social behavior is, you know, what we found overall. And then though, because as a national service organization, you can't just say, all right, 800 mayors, here's the good news about arts programs for at-risk youth, because your mayor is going to come home and say, hey, Terry, I want one of these programs. Can I get it by Tuesday? And you're thinking, yeah, Randy Cohen, he did it to me again, by golly. So we've developed a whole toolkit on how to develop new programs or strengthen existing programs, some ways to begin to evaluate your programs. But one of the challenges, one of the things we learned is that these are really expensive programs to evaluate. This is one of the big challenges because, there are these community-wide partnerships and, an arts program for youth, a great one. It's not just the arts, but it connects with the schools and juvenile justice and health. And as the kids seeing a dentist and, and the more community connected these programs are, the more impactful they are. So one of the things you'll find is we came up with a list of 12 characteristics of effective programs. And so that's one of them. And it also includes, working with professional artists, not a Park and Recs guy with a bucket of red paint or something like that, but because part of it is learning the artistic discipline, whatever the art form is, performance, visual arts, right? And that process of creation and arts is part of what, helps us and heals us and makes us whole and moves us ahead. So then basically funders were then able to say, all right, well, hey, you guys hit, 8 out of 12 of these. That's pretty good. This is probably a pretty good program. So that's called the Youth Arts Project. There's Creative Youth Development, which is more recent work, and there's various one-off studies and some different things, but those are a couple of the big studies. And our website, americansforthearts.org, will have a lot of materials as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Just to remind those of you who are on the Zoom session, as well as those who are on Facebook, you are welcome to ask questions through the chat or on Facebook. You can ask your question, and I think Lewis is going to help us with that if there are any questions that you might have for Randy while we've got him, because he is a wealth of knowledge. So if you do have any questions, Lewis, if you have been able to check the chat to see if we have any questions right now.
Terry, I'm going to ask this question. Randy, let's say I'm either an artist or someone who's with an arts organization, a volunteer or a staff member. And I have something on my social calendar that I'm going to be at something with an elected official. But I've never really done advocacy. And I'm looking for an opener. I'm looking for, what should I say to this person? First time engaging with someone. So give me some advice. If I came to you and said, Randy, give me some advice. What should I do? What's a first thing I should do?
Thanks, Lewis. If you have a little time to prepare for it, this will be great. And the first thing you can always do is find a reason to say thank you to that legislator, because the state provides, that we got the commission and the federal government, and and if you can tell people thanks for their support for the arts, and then just tell a story of what that support has meant to your organization, and what your organization has meant to the community, and then. And I gotta say, it feels a little intimidating the first time. I remember the first time I did it. I'd been in the arts for a while, and but once you got to know, these people, the legislators, are so happy to see you, and sometimes it's their staff, and sometimes it's the legislator. So if it's not the legislator, him or herself, that's not a loss. But they want to hear from you. And, I was, and that's the beginning of building the habit of advocacy, because we're in the people business, right? If you have to raise money or advocate, it's people to people. And so what can you, so don't make that one visit your last visit. So thank them, tell a story about how that support has really made a difference. And you can talk about how not only is it improved, if it was this program for youth, look what's happened to these young people, and here's some pictures or something like that. But it's also an industry, and talk about just your organization spends money, right? So, maybe you've got $100,000 budget or something like that. You ever notice when you go to an arts event, you're always getting paper, it's a program, it's a flyer, it's something like that. There's a writer in the community who was paid to write that. There's a graphic artist who did the design. Printers. I mean, we should, it'd be fun is everybody tally up their printing bill, that's just on this meeting. This is what, the arts mean to printers across the state. Let me tell you, nobody thinks about that. And Terry, you kind of mentioned some of this earlier. None of these benefits to the community are intuitive. People think like, yes, the arts are a wonderful amenity. Who's against the arts? Nobody. And it's like, we love, we go to see the Nutcracker around the holidays. It's a great cultural event, but it's something that our family gets together for. But it's not intuitive to think of these other benefits. And so do a little research, use that arts and economic prosperity calculator, and just say, in addition to this story, this is evidence of the good that we're doing on the local economy. We're supporting jobs. And what it's showing is, we know you're under huge stress as a legislator, and budgets are tight and the needs are high. This arts investment is helping you check off these other priorities of yours. You're getting cultural and economic benefits. That support's not disappearing down some black hole of goodness. It's giving back to the community in so many ways. I can tell you 5 years ago, I had open heart surgery. The vegetarian who plays soccer, 2 or 3 times a week, the first of his friends to hit the table, I had quintuple bypass surgery.
Oh my.
And which was a big surprise to me, to everyone. But the hospital I was at has fabulous art, and I kind of knew it. And after a day and a half or so, they kind of get you up. They get you walking around slowly, and you're nothing but doubt. I mean, I was nothing but doubt. You can't even get up alone, and you need help doing everything, and they're sticking you with needles once an hour. And I was starting to walk around. I had my telemetry device here, and I had my chest tubes in the hand here, and I coaxed one of the nurses to put a second robe around me so I could walk around. But I saw the art and experienced the art in a whole different way. And it was a feast for the eyes, number one. But I could feel the healing energy of the artist touch me at a palpable level. It was like the power of prayer. It was so inside, and it was beautiful to look at, but it really brought me to a place of hope that, I think there can be another side to this, because days ago, I thought I was just a regular guy, and it turns out, there's hospitals got collection and they focus on it, and it's they rotate the art and everything like that. And any of you who do our artists out there, whether it's performances or art or exhibitions, anything in hospitals, thank you.
Thank you.
And it was profound. It was transformative. And I've been a shill for arts and healthcare for decades. I could talk about it from a lot of perspectives, but a profound experience. And I'm eternally grateful, because I honestly didn't know what the other side of this looked like. So
Randy, I have another question I thought I would throw in here, which is, can you give us an update on the current discussions in Congress about legislation that supports creative industries in America? Where are decision makers currently talking about that, and in what way? And is there anything in possibly in the offing for the arts in legislation that's being discussed?
Yeah. It's certainly chaotic. Just 6 miles from where I am sitting, this as you all know and see on the TV. But the CARES Act, there's been good news here. And let's just sort of get back to the beginning of this whole conversation, the power of information and using that to get to leadership. So we started that survey of arts organizations in early March. Once it was clear that, man, since coronavirus came around, it's trouble for the arts. And after a couple of weeks, we had heard of several thousand organizations that our nonprofit arts organizations were already down, over $3 billion. And so we went to Speaker Pelosi, my Bob, who, is known for a million years, because we're about cultivating leadership, right? We asked Speaker Pelosi for $4 billion to help this industry because it's jobs and it's for the economy and everything else. And they weren't able to muster that specifically, but they did include $75 million in CARES Act dollars to the NEA and that to the NEH and Museum and Library Services and public broadcasting. But because we were also able to show, here's the impact of what's happening to artists, we were able to ensure that artists were listed and named as part of the federal pandemic unemployment assistance. That was the extra $600 a week, right? So artists were specifically named for that. And then the PPP, the payroll protection program. Nonprofit arts organizations, about 9,800 of them got PPP loans, which will turn into grants worth about $1.8 billion. Now, that really lags the $14 billion that nonprofit arts organizations have lost so far. But we were able to get it in there and make sure that the artists were specifically named. And let me tell you, and arts organizations, we can't ever assume that. When we have these meetings and we talk to our legislators, don't accept that, oh, well, of course, you all be eligible for that. That's good. No, you know what? We need to see it spelled out because people don't think intuitively about the arts as an industry or the arts, the 87,000 people employed in the arts in Indiana, right? So connect the dots all the way through to folks. Now, so that was the CARES Act. That was billions and billions of dollars. And then there's the new bills that have worked in the House and the Senate. The last one that the House passed, which was $2.2 trillion, had about $135 million for the cultural agencies, a little bit more for public broadcasting. It had more of the $600 a week income. It had, there's a bill, Save Our Stages, which is $10 billion, which is geared towards live music venues. So there were several, the arts showed up in multiple places in this bill. Now, it's probably not going to happen right away, but you read the news like we do, Pelosi and, the White House are still hundreds of billions of dollars off. The Senate is like, we're not even going to take that up. It's so far off. So the question is, will that go into the lame duck session after the election, or will it be pushed until January? People aren't really sure. But the good news is, well, the bad news is America is desperate for relief. It's not just the arts, it's everybody. I mean, it is brutal right now. But when the time comes, and here's a way to keep up with it. Our political action organization is called the Arts Action Fund, Americans for the Arts Arts Action Fund. It's our 501c4. It's the political action arm of Americans for the Arts. And we're, building, we've got a 450,000 person arts army, because in Washington, D.C. or in your state house, it's a numbers game. you know, if you can get 1,000 communiques to a state legislator, you know, they're like, oh my God, something's going on here. You know, it's, and you can do it by email. And so go to artsactionfund.org and join. Can't beat the price, it's free. And that'll be a way to keep up with the federal policy, the federal advocacy, as well as the state advocacy. You type in your name and number, your zip code. You'll get an email when it says, contact your senator now, contact your representative now. And you'll also see all the updates of what's going on. So we've all got a job to do, and being an advocate is just part of our job now.
Yes, and it does rewards, and Randy's aware of this, but there may be people that are a part of this conference that don't know what Indiana was awarded or provided through the CARES Act. Lewis, would you be willing to, for 1 minute, just share a little bit about what happened recently in the state?
Sure. I'd be happy to. So there was, first of all, that money that was given to the National Endowment for the Arts as part of the CARES Act. We distributed about $700,000 of that money between the Arts Commission and Arts Midwest in the state of Indiana. Then there was, of course, as Randy mentioned, the PPP money, and we know that about a third of our cultural organizations, maybe more, were in that PPP pool of organizations that received money for that. Also, we did a lot of promoting about the unemployment assistance program, that's $600 that for individual artists that Randy was talking about. We know that a number of our artists, a lot of artists in the state were part of that. Then, of course, we are just distributing about $10 million from the state's CARES money that the state received, that our governor designated for arts and culture in our state, and that is in the process of going out. That has been distributed. We have organizations in 80 of our 92 counties that are part of that, and actually about 70% of that are to organizations that are outside of our 4 major metropolitan counties in the state of Indiana. So that's another piece of CARES money that has been distributed. Of course, in that process, we've learned a lot about arts organizations and cultural institutions in our state and what other CARES monies they've received. And that has been very substantial in our state as well from other sources, whether that was PPP or Indiana Humanities Council or a lot of other sources, or the previous money that we distributed from the NEA. So it's had quite a profound impact in our state. Of course, it's still just, as Randy has underscored, just a small piece of the hurt that we've had in our state as far as to the cultural community, but it has been also a substantial piece of help. So
Yes,
that's a little summary.
and that's one of the things that we can use to show our appreciation when we do meet with our legislators, to thank them for the work that they're doing. So there's some simple things that we can just pull, from our toolbox, if you will, to get the conversation started. I don't think we have as much trouble with the qualitative part, being able to tell our stories, because there are a lot of great stories that we can tell, but the data, those numbers are things that they want to hear and how it impacts the bottom line. So it's really very, very important. Yeah.
I just want to add my congratulations to to Lewis and to all of you across the state for that state CARES Act money to the arts. That isn't happening everywhere. That's really, there's only a couple of states that have had that kind of success. So congratulations to you all. And I know, a lot of times, and I'm in Maryland, involved in my state, and, you get really focused on, well, here's what's happening. And I guess what's happening here is what's happening everywhere, but not always the case. So anyway, congratulations to you all on that. It's really an amazing story.
Thank you. Thank you. And don't forget, those of you who are in Indiana, you could have an Arts Trust plate They're very
Mhm.
cool. You can look at it's in.gov/arts. There's all kinds of things that are there in terms of research, but you can also get a license plate. That will help. Also, we want to plug our website, Indiana, or it's inartsadvocates.org. So you can sign up and get information from there. And I told you all that we were going to have an outspoken, outstanding arts leader, but I guess I have to add inspirational now to that to that list. And we're all a part of the Arts Army, and you are a general for the last hour or so. So thank you for leading us and giving us the information that we need, as well as the resources, because we can't remember all that you told us, but there are a lot of resources out there that will help us at the national level as well as at the local level with our own organizations. So I am going to turn it back over to Lewis, I believe.
Yeah, so I just want to read one thing that popped up in the chat. So, oh, bye, Randy, you are lovely. What an amazing story. This is about your recovery from your heart surgery. So glad for your recovery, Randy. We are very glad that you're definitely a gem on a national level for the arts and for just the knowledge base that you have about arts advocacy and how to make a case for the arts. You are as close to irreplaceable as there is for anyone in the arts in America. And so we are thrilled to have you with us today and help kick this off for us today. Terry, thanks so much for your leadership, being involved in advocacy and to give it that focus and articulation that you do for our state. I want to encourage people to go back to the site about the conference and make some of your choices for the rest of the day. Today, those that are interested in local advocacy, Terry, you're involved in a session at 2 o'clock with 2 senators who are helping to articulate a case for the arts with the legislature in our state. You're on with Sally Gaskell, our other person that's instrumental in helping to organize some advocacy in our state at that time. Want to just thank Randy for taking this virtual trip to Indiana today.
Yes.
You're always welcome here. And I will see. I think those are the questions that we've had here today in the chat for Randy. And I know that it's about time to move on. So thanks to all, and thanks to all of you for tuning in today virtually. And we look forward to seeing you today and tomorrow as part of Indiana Arts Homecoming 2020. Thanks so much to all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. It's great to be with you.
Take care.
Care.